Assalamu alaikum, hello and welcome to my show Connecting with Saima Parwaz. I hope all of you are doing great and waiting to see my today's guest. As usual, we're going to discuss real estate market with Ayoun, everyone's favorite. Ayoun, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you
I'm
for
good.
having me.
It's been after many months.
Many months, many weeks, many months, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited and looking forward to discussing today's topics.
So what else we are going to discuss?
I believe our topics today are how landlord-tenant issues can be looked after. You know, what precautions need to be taken when you're renting your property, how it intertwines with real estate, the condition of the market. We can even discuss how, because we are also family lawyers, so we can even discuss how it affects family law
Market
cases.
is affecting.
And yeah, there's an overlap between these issues, and I think that's what we're here to discuss.
All right. So first tell me, how was your day today?
It was a long day, but alhamdulillah, it's a fulfilled day.
And Sviya is supposed to come, right?
She was supposed to come. She got stuck with the ex parte motion. They can be erratic. They're very stressful, so she excused herself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So let's start with the real estate.
Okay.
How's the market?
It's steady. It's getting better. The good thing is that there's no negative outlook to real estate anymore. There is different opinion about how fast it will recover or how fast it'll come to a point where there's movement. You can see the same numbers that we had in the previous years coming up to par, basically. But I think, in my opinion, it's going to be a bit slower, if you want me to say slower. But in a way, it's good, because when it recovers, it'll recover properly. We don't want artificial indicators. We don't want any external sentimental effects on the real estate market. We want individual, investor, all these areas to thrive, and it's going to happen when you have a stable market and a stable economy. Again, just as a forecast, maybe another 2 to 3 years. And I'm saying long term, because the problem, Saima, is that we have ruined our own expectations with the last 5-10 years that we've seen. They've been very erratic. They've been very aggressive. So when the property and the real estate market was going up, I felt that it was way too fast. It was inflated. It was artificial. There was no real substance in that market. But I believe that a 2 to 3 year gap with COVID and the slowdown of the market and then picking up, I think we're going to see more stable results. Hopefully, if we see some sort of understanding between Canada and the US, and there's a certainty in the geopolitical situation that Canada and America are in, that could heavily affect the outcome of the real estate market. But good news is to come.
How about interest rates?
So they continue to climb down.
But are they affecting? I don't see anything like if.
I mean, yes, but because the problem is that the interest rate had gone up significantly. So coming down that ladder is also, it's going to take time. So before it used to lurk around the lower range. Then after COVID, they had to bring it even lower. But then post COVID, they went really high up to a point where, inflation had gone up, so they had to curb inflation. So interest rates were really high, but now slowly they're bringing it down. They have to be careful, like we've discussed in our previous shows. It's easier said than done. Inflation is basically, when inflation goes up, means that affordability, everything becomes more expensive. So they have to increase the interest rate. But then there comes a time where where there's no investment and there's no market regulation. Then they try to bring it down to encourage investment. But you have to be very careful not to bring it down too fast, because if you bring it down too fast, what ends up happening is what happened at COVID, because everything went 0%. People went crazy. Everybody started buying. It was just it was a fool's paradise. But I think bring it down a little more, stabilize it, amend certain laws around capital gains. You need investment. That's how all countries are. Even the US got billions of dollars of investment from UAE and Saudi and all these countries. I think we need to expand our market, get into these uprising. India is one of, we have a bad relationship with India at a political level, but India is a good market to tap in. China we're always scared of. I don't know why. We could just, if these wars and these all these mind games end, and the world truly becomes a global village, then we all can benefit. Hopefully we'll see how our prime minister runs the country.
Yeah, I don't see much changes so far, but
yeah, I mean, you could say I knew that when political campaigns happen, politicians, they do overpromise. We always see it. We've been seeing it for at least my adult age. I've been seeing it for 20 years. They come, they promise, they make all these fancy promises, but as soon as the day they're sworn in,
this is just not here, everywhere.
it's everywhere. So why make those promises? I guess that's how media attention works. That's how you attract people. But yeah, I mean, there's a long way for Canada. Like our prime minister promised to settle the situation with Trump. I'm the best person to deal with him. We're going to do this. None of that has
That's
happened.
why we brought banker, right?
Exactly. But so far, there's not been much other than just lip service.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Let's see, hoping for the best.
Hoping for the best, yes, absolutely. That's what we
So
hope.
I think another thing they should do, they should open international buyers or
Foreign
investors.
investment, and I'm not just talking about residential, I'm talking about commercial.
Commercial, yeah.
Allow, the problem with Canada is we're very restricted to Canadian businesses, which is good, but at the same time, there's a lopsided amount of money that is, split into our economy. Our big three, Rogers, TELUS, Bell, I call them I don't want to say this on TV, but they're the telecommunication giants, right? Then we have our media industry, they have their own giants. So I understand, but the problem is that unlike America, if you go to the United States, there's a lot of competition. And what it does is it brings the best out of you. That's why if you look at everything, sports, their media, Hollywood, everything is top notch because competition encourages growth. It encourages proper actual talent coming up. We don't have that. We were just stuck with those fixed companies that are there. And it's not just about Rogers, Bell, TELUS.
It's a monopoly.
It's a monopoly in every industry. And if you open the doors to foreign, because there's Korean companies, there's Chinese companies that are doing wonderfully well. They're providing their clients, customers, electric cars at fraction of the price. They're providing technology that we cannot even think of. But I guess we're scared that what if they come and they take over their market? I think we have to find a balance. We have to open our doors to outdoor investment. I'm sure Saudi Arabia, knowing that they don't have much in their country except for a lot of funds because of oil, they're wanting to invest. They have a public investment fund. They have investments in UAE, United States. So that's how you spread your portfolio. And I think Canada needs to do that.
So guys, we are going to discuss a few of the success stories Ayoun achieved last month.
Sure. I must say that we often get good news from our clients' cases. Reason why is that when we take in clients, we ensure that we understand the case. If it's something that we believe that the client's providing insufficient information, or if we believe that the client's in the wrong and he's insisting on doing something that's not morally correct, it becomes hard to have a success story because generally the legal system in Ontario is very strong. I do have questions over bail reform, but that's criminal and we don't have to talk about it. But in family law, there's a lot of protections for spouses. There's even in landlord-tenant board cases, there's a lot of cases where it protects the landlord. Yes, they get misused, but they eventually you find a way around it. So once we screen our clients, we take our clients on, and typically our cases include individuals like landlords that are not being paid the rent that's due, damaging the property, all these kind of things. Sometimes even if it's not just a wrong that the tenant has done, sometimes the landlord comes to us and says, I don't have a place to be, so I have to move into the unit myself, or sometimes it's a family member. So once you go to experienced lawyers like us, we know exactly how to cater that. So it eventually becomes a success story. And I think it's the formation of your entire case from the start to the finish. If it's done properly, every case that comes to us generally ends up being successful. It's because of the process behind it and not blindly just taking clients on. Unfortunately, there are law firms, because we're talking in a more candid way, there are lawyers, very big firms in Toronto, all over Ontario, that tend to take cases not on merit but just for the fact for volume. So what ends up happening is that it doesn't affect lawyers. I mean, obviously they exclude their liability, but a lot of them end up being bogus. I had one time this LTB case where the other client was claiming that he was physically assaulted, and it was becoming very weird because they had instances of criminal law, and it was strange. But because we were able to cater the file correctly, we were able to guide the client individually, we were able to get him out of, and on the other side, it was a very, I don't want to take names, but a really big known firm for LTB matters. And it becomes bogus, because when you focus on volume, you're just taking whoever comes in.
How much you can take, right?
Yeah, so then it becomes more about profits than resolving. So the simple answer to your question is that for us, alhamdulillah, we get success stories often because we try to keep it streamlined with matters that have substance, matters that have content, and individuals that are truly seeking help and that are truly in a problem, in a on a crossroads where they don't know what to do. So that's where we guide them. Yeah.
I had a listing, my own listing, and I had an offer, and we signed it, everything. The money was in a trust account, and when I checked the references, like, because it was a weekend, we couldn't check the references.
Right.
They called me on Monday, and the reference told me they did not pay for 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So look how important it is that when, and this is for your viewers as well, that when you have a property that you need to lease, you have to make sure, just like our law firm, just like we were discussing, that even our cases have to be tailor-made, make sure everything's done. I think it's so important that you screen people that come, do their credit, and don't hesitate. These are people that are going to be residing in your property. They're the ones looking after your property. They're the ones maintaining your property. So, and these are probably your biggest investments. So you want to make sure that you're not just desperate to lease it to anyone, because you may often get this narrative that, oh, it's so hard to rent nowadays and you're not getting the rent. If someone's giving you a high amount of money, you just want to be careful. Do a credit history check their driver's licenses. You can run searches online. There's many different avenues where you can run individual searches. Make sure that
we can hire a third party.
You can hire a third party, get references, make sure you call the previous landlords, make sure they're legitimate numbers, and I think most importantly what matters is you must physically meet these people as well. Don't rely on Teams. I know those are modern ways, but even to this date, when you meet someone in person, you can tell a lot about that person. Teams, perhaps it's just a face, you can't really tell.
We, as agent, we trust on other agent, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, the other agent knew about it, and he didn't tell me.
So that's
so sad.
That's so sad, and that you should complain about him.
Yeah,
you should be going to the real estate. You guys have a complaining process with Treb. You should definitely report him so he doesn't do it to other people. You actually want less of these people. The market's flooded with unfortunate individuals like that, and I think you need to report these people.
Why he wants to put someone in a trouble, right?
Absolutely. It's really unfair that he's passing on clients to you that haven't paid a rent for 1 year.
1 year, yeah.
One of my family members, they rented the property to, this is a funny story. They did a credit history on the tenants, and they had a very bad credit score. But if you go down the history, they paid everything on time, but there was some mortgage problem that they had a couple of years ago, I think during COVID, when they couldn't afford a mortgage. So, the landlord sat down with the tenant and said, what's the issue? Why is your credit low? So he truthfully came out and said, look, here's our pay stubs. They were making good money, highly paid jobs. But the only reason why, our credit rating is so bad is because a few years ago, we couldn't afford it. We had lost our jobs, and that's why our credit got affected. So long story short, the landlord did trust him, and that's, like I said, you physically meet the person. I'm not talking about judging someone by a race or ethnicity. We're not going into that. We're talking about just body language, just the way the person communicates with you, how the person is interacting with you. If you tell them something that you like, do tell them that you want your property clean. Do tell them that you want the property to be maintained because this is your property. So it's about that interaction and how that person talks to you. So anyways, that landlord ended up trusting the tenant. It's been 2 years. They've never missed a payment, never had an issue. Now, technically, this person had a 400 rating, but that tenant ended up being a nice tenant. So do your due diligence. You're right. So this is not to suggest that go ahead and give it to everybody who has a 400 rating. Everything is circumstantial. You have to look around. You have to see how things are, and make your decision wisely.
True.
Yeah.
All right. What is the best way to, if someone is there, tenants, and they don't want to leave the property and they're not paying?
So typically, my advice is twofold. First, I try to ascertain the facts. First, ascertain and see how much is outstanding. If it's just a 1 month, 2 month missing of payment, then I would suggest to definitely serve them with the N4 notice. It's the non-payment of rent. You serve them a notice, giving them about, I think, 14 days.
14, and then we have to serve another.
And then so you give them a 14-day notice, and if they don't pay in those 14 days, then you file with the LTV. I know that many jurisdictions over the last few months, past few years, they've actually improved the availability of hearings much faster, specifically for N4. The rest of them can take, long, and I know there's a lengthy backlog, but it's improved over time. But specifically N4 applications, I've seen jurisdictions giving a 2 month, even a month and a half period for the hearing, which is okay, better than I remember a few years ago we used to have a discussion on this show about people waiting a year and it became a scam and all this. So it's improving. So definitely I would say serve the notice. But if it's about, number one, the rent hasn't been paid for a year, you haven't done anything about it. Number two, if you believe that it's an amount, that this person is unable to pay, then what we do is we consider, depending on the communication between the landlord and the tenant, we consider doing a settlement. Right? That's also an option. So this is why I encourage that anybody who's in that scenario, it doesn't matter. This show will educate them, but at the end of the day, you need a lawyer. Speak to a lawyer, speak to us. We can definitely discuss about the options that are available to people. We can go over, like the second issue, if we know that there's a lot of amount outstanding and it's not going to be recoverable, then we suggest to do a settlement. Maybe he could pay half, or maybe he could pay a significant amount, because that's still better than let's just say you have a settlement about half. Somebody owes you 20 and you get a settlement with this case, you're going to leave and give me $10,000 to the landlord. At least in that settlement, you've recovered $10,000 and then you can now rent it to another person. Your losses are cut short. But if you end up going into litigation, that's thousands of dollars in extra LTB fees. Then if the person doesn't pay up, then you have to go to small claims. You have to get an order there. By the time you end up, your monthly mortgage has been gone up to, from now 20 to how much, like 30, 35,000. You've ended up spending more litigation costs. So you may be able to evict him. Well, not maybe, but you eventually will be able to evict him. But sometimes in certain scenarios, there's no guarantee that you're going to be recovering that amount.
Yes.
These people are students. These people could be anyone who absconds, and they're unavailable, and there's no way to track them down. So it's sometimes better to just take a hit. So, but again, we have to see circumstantially what cases are good for that kind of strategy. Not all of them will be, but yeah, we can definitely help people with that.
So what is a key deposit in Ontario?
So it's tricky. So key deposit is not allowed. It's not allowed in landlord and tenant rules. The Residential Tenancies Act 2006. So what people are doing is they're using that deposit at the detriment of the tenant. So they'll say, oh, you have to give us $4,000 as a deposit. It's a key deposit, but it's not really a key deposit. So what people started doing was people started misusing it. So Ontario stopped altogether of any deposits. The only thing you can do is a last month's rent that has to be credited towards last month. So let's just say if I'm starting a tenancy with my tenant, I can only ask him to pay up the last month's rent. So when he leaves, he doesn't have to pay for that month. So automatically it kind of balances out. But any deposit that he gives you, consider being a deposit, can never be a deposit that has to be given back. So that's why key deposits, security deposits, not allowed. Some people still do it, but if you were to go in front of LTB, it won't be enforceable. So you may do it. Not every tenant will read the rules. They may just like a property, say, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll give you whatever you want. But if this is for the landlords, if in the future they think they can enforce it, it's not enforceable. In fact, you can be penalized for it.
Hi guys, I'm back from a break. How was your break?
It was good. We had a good discussion about all the topics. I wish we had, much longer on the show. I think we could talk for hours. There's so much to discuss.
Yeah. Thank you so much, always
No problem,
helping me and my clients.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right. So you guys also practice family law, right?
Yes, we do.
So how, since everyone knows the market is really bad right now, so how it's affecting in the family law in your business?
It's a valid question because it's the market's very tricky. Often now we're seeing couples that are in distress, that are separating. The first thing that they want to do is sell the property because nobody wants to upkeep the mortgage. One party is either in it, the other party is out. So the other party is saying, hey, you know what, you have to sell, and then the party that's staying cannot stay in it for very long. So under the Partition Act, even the law actually mandates the matrimonial property to be sold. Problem is that when couples are now, first they used to be, trying to settle between the parties to sell, but selling it wasn't a headache because we knew that once there's an agreement between the parties, it just goes into the market, the property will sell for sure because it was a nice market for a very long time. But now, because it's so hard to sell, sometimes you're getting a lower price for the house. One party is agreeing to it, one party is not agreeing to it. So even if you get the parties to agree to an agreement to sell, selling becomes an issue. So it kind of overlaps and it becomes like chaotic.
So it needs to be sold before divorce, or?
It's encouraged that before divorce, all your outstanding issues need to be settled. So child support, spousal support, equalization, which involves the sale of the matrimonial property, all those issues are generally to be resolved before the divorce. Some cases where, this is more of a family law question, in some cases where the judge will allow to sever the divorce is if the person says, I want to remarry. So they'll say, okay, fine, you can file for a divorce separately, they'll be processed, so you can continue with your life, but the issues remain in court, so you have to still deal with them. So that's basically one scenario. So selling becomes an issue. So I think what we're trying to strategize now with our clients is to make sure those agreements, those interim agreements that we make for our clients to sell the property, we kind of define a range for the sale price. So let's just say if the house is going on sale for $650, we give like a percentage of how low or how high it can go. I mean, obviously the higher the better if it goes for a higher amount, which doesn't happen nowadays, it's good, but we give like a range of how much the lowest price both parties agree to. That way you have a cushion. it becomes challenging because agents have to be involved. We're not real estate agents, so we have to get a help of agents who didn't tell us the fair market value of the property, so then we can reasonably make these contracts. It becomes tricky often because there's disputing spouses, they're quarreling. You have agents that are giving amounts. One spouse wants their own agent, the other one spouse their own agent. Excuse me. So those are the kind of issues that we see in family law. And I think it's very important that you strategize with a lawyer completely for your family matters, so that way you know for sure how these issues are resolved.
So guys, we have discussed in today's episode with Ayoun some legal laws and rights of landlord and tenants. And what I just suggest to everyone, do not misuse your rights, and if you have some power, being a tenant or a landlord, so do not misuse them, and just try to resolve your issues. Just talk to each other, and before go to any lawyer or LTV, before everything, just talk both parties, and I think that's helpful for everyone. And if you guys have any questions, I'm a real estate agent. Ayoun is a real estate lawyer. You guys can reach to us, and we are definitely here to help you guys. And I'll see you guys in my next episode. Hope you enjoy. Bye.